Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today we have a very quick topic, and it is based on a question that people have asked me a number of times over the last 6 months or so, actually probably a lot longer than that. But as astute viewers of the Dungeon Dive will notice, I don't typically back a ton of the big popular Kickstarter games. I do a few a year, but I'm not one of those like mega backers who backs every big game that comes out on Kickstarter. And people often ask me how I deal with FOMO, how I deal with the fear of missing out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that subject while also giving some examples of why I probably won't be backing the new campaigns for Cthulhu Death May Die and Wander the Cult of Barnacle Bay, the second one, the second campaign for that, even though I really do love both of those games. So, how do I deal with FOMO? The first thing I do is I take a look at my shelves and I see if I have room for the game or if I can make room. So usually that means if something big comes in, something of equal size has to go out because I don't like having games on the floor. Even though I do right now, I have a few piles of games in front of my shelves and a couple piles over there underneath my table. I actually need to do a big purge. I need to sell some games, but I have a pretty small house and a very small hobby room. I don't have a lot of room to keep games. So when something big comes in, I really have to think about where am I going to put it. And it actually becomes pretty stressful for me if I get a big game in. So I look at the campaign and I wonder, I try to determine how many boxes is this going to be in. Okay, a sub category of this number one is I rarely go all in, if ever. I almost never go all in because I know that's just going to come with more and more boxes to store. I don't. I probably won't. I want to say I'm not going to say never, but I probably won't be backing any more Awakened Realms games because they are always so big. I've seen that huge box that ISS Vanguard is coming in, and I'm like, oh my god, I am so thankful that I didn't. I did not back that because it would stress me out too much about where I'm going to keep it. With CMON games, I usually only do maybe like one a year or one every other year, and I never go all in on those. And those things are a ridiculous number of boxes that those things come in. So I determine whether or not I have the space for the game. I almost never do because my collection is getting pared down really to the games I really love, and it's going to take a lot for me to bring a game in and keep it and store it. And so that's kind of like the main thing is space. And I'm far more interested in smaller games, in zines, in solo RPGs, and that kind of thing these days, just because they're easier to store. The second thing I do is I take a look at my calendar. So it's not actually a calendar, but I kind of try to gauge how much time I can devote to a single game. And because I don't have a lot of time to devote to just one game, that eliminates a lot of the games being presented on Kickstarter because more and more these days, these games are huge epic campaigns that take many, many, many dozens of hours and sessions to play. And that's just not where I am as a gamer, as a content creator right now. I don't spend a ton of time on one single game, so I can easily eliminate a ton of games. I already have some coming in from a few years ago when I thought I was going to be more into campaign style games. And as those trickle in, we will take a look at them and I will determine whether or not they are for me or if I'm going to keep them or not. One right now I have on the floor is Oathsworn. And I've taken a look at it and we're going to do a little video on it, but I'm not sure. The chances are probably greater that I don't keep Oathsworn, and just because of the nature of the campaign. And that leads me to point three. And this is kind of a combination of both of points one and points two. And that is, I've learned about the kind of gamer I am. I've learned a lot about myself as a gamer over the last 5 years, and I've especially learned a lot over the last couple of years. I've learned that I don't like big, epic campaign games that require many multiple sessions and many dozens of hours to complete, especially ones that contain a specifically written narrative that directs my that dictates the direction that I can go in. I like character-driven campaigns where I can just keep a character from game to game, but I am in control of the pace of the story. I'm in control of the pace of the loot. I'm in control of the pace of the encounters. You know, something more like um, Secrets of the Lost Tomb or Warhammer Quest or Shadows of Brimstone. You know, those are the kind of campaigns that I like. And the more that you learn about the kind of gamer you are, that means that you can safely ignore a whole bunch of the games that are being presented in crowdfunding campaigns and not worry about them. And so the combination of all three of these things allows me to just kind of like let go of FOMO, let go of the fear of missing out. Because while a lot of these big epic campaign games with multiple boxes and tons of stuff, those do really well on YouTube channels. People like seeing those unboxings. People like seeing people discuss them. People like seeing people just have fun and have joy in experiencing those kinds of games. But I know they're not for me. I know I don't have the time for them, and I know that I don't have the space for them. And so that means that I can safely ignore most of the games and I don't feel like I'm missing out because I already have a really good idea that those games are not for me. So let's take a detailed look, not super detailed, but as examples. I have two examples of upcoming campaigns that I am not backing and what I'm going to do about that. And so that is the new campaign coming up for Cthulhu Death May Die and the new campaign coming up very soon for Wander. I know Wander, Cult of Barnacle Bay. I'm not sure what the new one is called. But the main reason why I'm not backing these, so the main reason why I'm not going to back Cthulhu Death May Die is because it's a new standalone big box. I don't need another big box to store. That box is already big enough. And I'm already really happy with what I have with Cthulhu. I have the season 2 expansion that I got at retail. Actually, I got all of my Cthulhu Death May Die stuff at retail, and I'm happy with that. I got the base game, I got the season 1 expansion, and I got 2 of the great old ones for bosses. And I'm really happy with what I have with that game. I have enough variety. I don't need another big box. What I would back if they offered it would be a small box expansion, maybe a box of 6 or 12 more scenarios and 2 bosses. Like that would be awesome, but I don't need more tiles. I don't need more minions. I don't need more investigators. With the expansion, with the first expansion and the core box, you get a ton. There's like 24 or something, a crazy number of investigators all ready to choose from. And so I would be super interested in a small expansion that just added a little bit of variety. But what I'm probably going to do with that game is when the stuff hits retail, I will buy a few of the things that make sense to me. And that will probably be if they offer up a like season 3 expansion, I might buy that box. Or I might just buy a couple of the boxed great old ones. Hopefully they sell the some of the bosses as standalone expansions like they did for the first box set. And I will be super happy with that. I just don't want a whole nother core set to have to sort and store and worry about where I'm going to keep. And it's very similar for Wander. Wander, they are releasing in the new campaign another standalone box set. And I don't need like 12 more large tiles. I don't need a whole bunch of more heroes. I don't need all of the stuff that that game is going to come with, because again, that box is already really big and that box is probably going to be about that same size, and I just don't have room for it. And like Death May Die, if the what is it, Panda Cult? If Panda Cult Games, is that what it is? Yeah, if Panda Cult Games came out with a small expansion, one that maybe came with like 4 more enemy groups and maybe like 150 to 200 cards that I could just add to the decks of cards that I already have to give me more loot variety or more random encounter variety, I would be totally on board to back that. But what I'm not going to back is a whole another big box with stretch goals that are probably going to come in multiple boxes. It's going to be too much. And I'm already pretty happy with that game. The only thing that game really needs, as far as I'm concerned, is more enemy variety. So maybe after the campaign, maybe there will be a little expansion. I'm not sure. What I might do with Wander is I might back the game and just for the stretch goals, if they come with any enemy variety, and then maybe sell off the base game. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about both those games. That's why people have asked me, hey, are you going to back the new Wander? Are you going to back the new Cthulhu? And probably not. But I will take a look at what is offered down the road. I will take a look at anything that maybe comes out to retail. And if I can buy little bits and pieces to add to what I already have, then I will be golden. So dealing with FOMO is a big issue. I think it's getting easier for everybody though, just because of the rising prices. The rising prices of shipping are just making games way more expensive. The base pledges of these games is like, everything seems to start at about $120 to $150 these days. And if you bake in, another 40 or 50 for shipping, you're looking at like close to $200 for a single game. And that's a lot of money. Yeah, it's a lot of money. At my channel, I don't get a ton of preview copies. One reason why I don't is because I don't promise a video. If a publisher or a designer reaches out to me and says, hey, will you take a look at this preview copy of a game? You can have one. I will say, you can send me the game, but I don't promise a review. I don't promise a look at unless I have something interesting to say or show. And so a lot of times, and rightly so, the publisher, the designer will choose to send that game to somebody who will guarantee that they will put it on their channel. I don't guarantee that. I don't do paid for coverage. So I rarely get sent preview copies or retail copies when they come out. A few, maybe like 5% of my games were provided by the publisher. Maybe not even that. But yeah, so that's how I deal with FOMO. I know the kind of gamer I am. I know how much space I have. I don't want games scattered about my floor. I don't want games stored in other rooms or in my attic. And I know the kind of time I have to devote to the kinds of games that are typically crowdfunded. So for me, looking at those 3 factors, it's very easy for me to let go of FOMO and not worry about it. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this brief topic. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.